Hi, I am Ruthvij.
And I am Joseph. Our project is about the water and oil experiment.
Our experiment is called the Repelling Friendship of Oil and Water.
Our statement of purpose is, oil and water never mix. So what substance like food coloring, baking soda, and vinegar will make oil and water mix?
So our hypothesis to that is, because oil and water don't mix with each other, we believe that no substances like food coloring, baking soda, and vinegar can make oil and water mix with each other. At the molecular level, the attraction between water molecules and oil molecules isn't strong, so oil doesn't mix with water. So I believe that they won't mix at all even if we use other substances to help them mix. The materials that are required for the experiments are 960 ml of water, 80 ml of vegetable oil, 1 tablespoon or 14 grams of baking soda, 100 milliliters of vinegar, 4 drops of food coloring, and 1 medium-sized transparent container.
Our procedure for the first experiment is, first, we add water and oil to a container. Then we add food coloring to the oil and mix them with water. We observe whether the food coloring would make the oil and water mix.
The second experiment is, first we add water and oil to the container. Then we add baking soda to the oil and water. We observe whether the baking soda would make oil and water mix.
The third experiment is, first we add water and oil to a container. Then we add vinegar to the oil and water. We observe whether the vinegar would make oil and water mix.
The fourth experiment is, first we add water and oil to the container. Then we add baking soda and vinegar into the oil and water. We observe whether the baking soda and vinegar would mix the oil and water together.
Before we explain about our observations and results about our wacky and amazing experiments, we need to tell you some information we researched about.
There are hundreds of different hydrocarbons in the oil. Cooking oil is not a compound, so it has no specific formula. That is a mixture of several different compounds. It has many complex hydrocarbons and octanes, 8 carbon atoms, and 12 hydrogen atoms. Oil is about 13% of hydrogen and 85% of carbon. Oil has some inorganic elements like sulfur, iron, nickel, and copper. The way the molecules form are the result of the original composition of the organic matter in the oil we use today, so there is no specific chemical formula for oil.
Water has 3 states of matter, meaning that it has 3 different physical states. The 3 states are solid ice, liquid water, and gas vapor. The chemical formula of water is H2O. It means that each of its molecules contains 1 oxygen atom and 2 hydrogen atoms. Water has polar molecules, meaning that there is a negative and positive charge.
Well, I think you want to know the real reason why oil isn't best blended with water, so here is the real reason. There are 2 reasons why anything happens at all. They are entropy and energetics. Energetics deals mostly with the attractive forces between things. The energetics between oil and water is at the molecular level. The water molecules are all attracted to each other's forces, so they are all moving, vibrating, and rotating in constant motion. They just don't fly out of the water because of the attractive interactions between the molecules. The strength of the interactions between water itself and other substances is called energetics. The water molecules change attractions with other water molecules all the time. If a substance interacts with 2 water molecules who are attracted to each other, then the substance doesn't mix well.
Entropy describes the way things and energy can be arranged in random motion. Entropy just wants molecules to be mixed up. So if there are attractive forces, there could be some possibility of arrangements for the ones that are attracted to each other. The balance of entropy and energetics that determines what will happen. Water is made of 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom. The water molecules are attracted to each other and are always moving. That is called hydrogen bonding network. Entropy keeps the water molecules moving at all times. So when oil joins, entropy favors oil mixing with water. But oil molecules are bigger than water molecules. They disrupt the attraction of water molecules, so the water molecules are not attracted to oil molecules. so the oil and water molecules are separated from each other. So the interaction of molecules determines whether they dissolve into each other or not.
So the first experiment was the food coloring with oil and water. Based on our observations, only the food coloring mixed with the water, but the food coloring and the water didn't mix with the oil.
The oil just floated on top of the water. There's a visible layer of oil on top and colored water at the bottom. So the oil just didn't mix with the water.
The second experiment was baking soda with the oil and water. Based on our observations, this substance didn't seem to change anything, and the baking soda just mixed with the water. The oil was still on top of the baking soda and water.
The water's color changed to white because of the oil. The baking soda didn't dissolve totally in the water. We can still see particles of baking soda on the top floating. So the oil didn't mix with the water.
The third experiment was vinegar with oil and water. Based on our observations, the vinegar just mixed with the water. The oil stayed on top of the water, so the oil didn't mix with water.
The water turned yellow, but it didn't mix the oil and water together. So our results was still the same. The oil didn't mix with the water.
The fourth experiment was vinegar with baking soda, oil, and water. Based on our observations, the baking soda started to make things bubble.
Then, after it stopped, the observations were the same. The oil didn't mix with water. The oil was separated from the mixture of vinegar, baking soda, and water.
So in conclusion, our hypothesis was proven because the oil didn't mix with the water, even after attempts of making substances like baking soda, food coloring, and vinegar to mix the oil and water. The results weren't really surprising because we know why oil doesn't usually mix with water. That is because of entropy and energetics.
So, our answer to our state of purpose was that none of our substances can make oil and water mix together because of the density differences. So the results are always the same no matter how much we try. Oil doesn't mix with water. Instead, the food coloring, baking soda, and vinegar mixed with the water instead of mixing oil and water. So our hypothesis has been proven by our excellent experimentations and observations.
We hope you like our experiment and our video.